Hey everybody, welcome back around to the blog and grill. I'm your host Doug here with your video blog for October 20th, 2015. I have a great blog planned for you today as we'll go and check out your college football rankings. Also, we'll have NFL headlines for you, but the big news today comes down as the Louisville escort recruiting scandal continues. An interview was heard today on the Dan Le Batard show on ESPN Radio from the escort Pitino Powell. She is on. She wrote a book. That book was released today. And she was on with Dan Le Batard and Stu Gatz, and she had a lot of interesting things to say. As she said, many sexual acts were performed on recruits. They would have parties. Even her daughters got involved. And it was just a very interesting thing to hear her just pour out this story about how she kept a journal. So one day she could release this if she thought she could. Of course, the connection is with the graduate assistant coach, Andre McGee, who is now with another college at this point. So Andre McGee is not at Louisville anymore. He is now gone from Louisville, take a coaching job at another college. And it's been just so interesting. She also said when she was asked about Rick Pitino that she does think Rick Pitino knew what was going on with the recruits, as he should know, since he's the one scheduling these recruits to come in. He should know what they're doing and where they are. Rick Pitino then was interviewed today. He had a press conference, and he said that he thinks Andre McGee needs to come out and tell the truth and tell really what happened so that it can start to clear the air with what's going on with this big-time story. And really, when you look at it, the biggest question that we have to ask Andre McGee is, where did this money come from? This is a coach making not a lot of money at a pretty big basketball school, and what it comes down to is he was giving Pitino Powell upwards of $20,000 every time she would have one of these parties. And the question is, where was this money coming from? She said it was banded together. The money was banded, so it wasn't just straight cash. It was banded together. Probably came from somebody else, but the question is, who did this money come from? And will we ever find out who this money came from? The other thing I have an issue with is everybody saying this happens all over. Yes, it does happen all over, but we don't know about it, okay? And when you don't know about something, it's a little bit less of a big deal. When you know about this going on at a big-time college basketball school like Louisville with a high-profile coach in Rick Pitino, it's going to be a bigger deal. And I think Rick Pitino must have known somewhat of what was going on, and I think for that reason, Rick Pitino's job is in jeopardy, and he should be thinking that he might just want to step down from this and get away from this situation and try to go to another school, because if something comes out about him being involved in this, he could be done coaching college basketball at the highest level. This is pretty big if you think about it. Just 2 weeks, we've had two big stories. USC with Steve Sarkisian, now Rick Pitino in Louisville, both struggling with something. We don't know a lot about Rick Pitino yet, but both of these guys possibly having issues with things, and this is causing them to lose their job. And Rick Pitino could be on his way out at Louisville. We'll keep you up to date on all things Louisville escort recruit scandal as we move forward. All right, time for some NFL headlines. The Monday night game last night wasn't great, a lot of turnovers, but what it came down to was DeMarco Murray starting to be able to run the ball more effectively, and the Eagles' front seven really got after the Giants, shut them down after that first drive, and really played a very strong game, forcing turnovers, forcing Eli to make quick decisions, shut down Odell Beckham Jr., and they played well, and DeMarco Murray really played well as he rushed for over 100 yards for the first time this year. Other big news, of course, was the big Colts trick punt play where they had two guys up on the line of scrimmage. You have to have 7 on the line of scrimmage, and the guy snapping the ball, Griff Whalen, this guy's a wide receiver. He didn't even practice the trick play, said punter Pat McAfee, and that is just crazy to think that Chuck Pagano actually came out and said that they have practiced this play for years. They've practiced it a lot, and it's not even a legal play because you can't run the play with those guys up on the line of scrimmage. I think Chuck Pagano has shown he's kind of struggling with this coaching thing. We'll see what happens with Chuck. He's a good coach. He's a good guy, and he's got a good quarterback, but they're struggling right now, and they really struggle against the New England Patriots. All right, what is wrong with the Seattle Seahawks? Seahawks fall to 2-4 after losing to the Carolina Panthers late in the game, and really their defense in the fourth quarter has been a big issue. Cam Chancellor hasn't stepped up yet. Richard Sherman has struggled, and they're not getting pressure on the quarterbacks. Greg Olsen caught 2 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter for the Panthers, and really the Seahawks are very capable of losing a lot of games at home now. Marshawn Lynch not running the ball well. They're really struggling to play, and we're going to see what happens. But this Seahawks team right now is at 2-4, and they have to win some games coming up to have a shot at getting back into the playoffs. All right, let's wrap it up with your college football rankings for today. All right, coming at number 6, I have Alabama. Still trying to figure out what to do with Alabama. Right now they have 1 loss to an Ole Miss team, which now has 2 losses. And really, they played well against Texas A&M. They played well against Georgia, but Georgia just barely beat Missouri this past weekend, 9-6. So you really wonder how good Georgia is. Yes, they don't have Nick Chubb now, but still, how good is Grayson Lambert at quarterback? So that's why I have Alabama at number 6. I still think they're a viable championship competitor, and they could still win out if they can beat. They can still win the SEC West if they can beat LSU in that big-time game. My number 5 team is Clemson. I really like Clemson's defense. I think Deshaun Watson can make enough plays on the offensive side of the ball as well. This team should win the ACC. They have a lot better team, I think, than Florida State. Deshaun Watson can actually make some plays down the field. Everett Golson struggles, but I do like Delvin Cook for Florida State, so that kind of keeps Florida State in the running for that race. Number 4, TCU. Trevon Boykin still playing well. Josh Dodson playing well for that team. TCU's rolling, and really their tough game is going to be when they play Baylor, which will be coming up in a few weeks. Number 3, LSU. I really like LSU. They took it to Florida. They played really well against Florida, and they showed up against Florida. Leonard Fournette has to be the Heisman frontrunner at this point. We'll see what happens, but LSU right now is my number 3 team in the country. Number 2 is Baylor. Baylor's running over people. They can score a lot of points. They're playing well. Baylor right now is my number 2. As their biggest game is going to be against my number 4, TCU. And then finally, my number 1 team, still Ohio State. I still think they're the best team, most complete team. They have the most weapons with Elliott and Cardell Jones and Braxton Miller, and now JT Barrett's going to start at quarterback this week against Rutgers. So we'll see what happens, but that's my top 4: Ohio State, Baylor, LSU, TCU. Then I got Clemson and Alabama just on the outside looking in. All right, just don't forget you can check me out on sportsmindnews.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at YankeeBaller415. I'll be back later on in the week with another blog for you as we get you ready for another weekend in sports. We'll also talk some hunt for October later on as we get ready for the World Series. Thanks for tuning into the Blog and Grill. I'll see you back here later on in the week. Have a great week. You can comment, question, subscribe. I'll see you later. Have a good one.